This sorry looking old car, abandoned in a barn under a thick layer of dust, is my 1976 Jaguar XJ6, and in this series I plan on fully restoring and modifying it. But first, let me tell you how this project came to be. This is my dad, Mike, and for as long as I can remember, we share a love of all things Jaguar. We have owned more Jags than I'd like to admit, and I was even a salesman in a Jaguar dealership for a short time. But this project really started when I went to the 2016 NEC Classic Motor Show in Birmingham and came across the Retro Power stand. More importantly, this Jaguar XJ Restomod, featuring a V8 LS engine swap, custom bodywork modifications and custom suspension and alloy wheels. Little to say, I was literally in love. And I became obsessed with the idea of building my very own Restomod Jaguar XJ and talked to my dad endlessly about this idea, planning every minor detail of my future build. All I needed was a car. The magic happened at Christmas 2020 when I was lucky enough to be given an XJ6 as a gift from my parents, and I was over the moon. Fast forward to 2023, and after much planning, research and saving up my pennies, I was finally in a position to start this huge project. And the first step was to get the car out of the barn where it was being stored and assess its overall condition. Although the car was in great overall condition, we still had to tackle rust issues, old mechanics, used suspension and brakes, and just general wear and tear. But the first step was to load the car up and make the 200km journey back to our garage so that we could start the works. This was an exciting moment. I'd spent so long planning this build that it was rather surreal to see the car being backed into the garage and that I was able to finally get my hands on it. In this complete nut and bolt restoration, the first step was to strip down the car and send the shell to the body shop to be fully restored, repainted and modified. To do this, I started by taking off the front bumper, grills and lower valance panel to clear the space needed to lift the engine out. As with any old car, all of the bolts were seized on, but with a combination of a blowtorch, WD-40 and an impact wrench, I managed to finally get the front of the car loose. Next up, the engine needed stripping of its carburetors, exhaust manifold, and the wiring was then disconnected from all the ancillaries. This was a long and fiddly process to get my hands underneath the inlet manifold to release all of the nuts holding on the carburetors. And on the exhaust manifold side, all of the nuts and bolts were practically inaccessible, but with a little bit of magic from video editing, I make it look easy. The final step was to jack up the car and undo the gearbox supports, allowing us to pull the engine and gearbox out of the front of the vehicle. Who needs an engine crane when you've got a digger and the man who knows how to drive it? This made light work of getting the whole gearbox and engine assembly out of the front of the vehicle. And just like that, the engine and gearbox were out. It was now time to finish stripping out the engine bay of everything to do with the brakes, the fueling system and the wiring loom so that the whole lot could be fully repainted by our body shop. This stage was actually quite pleasant and easy without any major hurdles, unlike what was about to come.
Everything just made me feel like shit. You couldn't tell me to be.
As you can probably tell, getting the fuel tanks out was an absolute nightmare. Every bolt was seized and just snapped, and it was a very, very long process. It was after removing the fuel pumps that I came to comprehend the extent of the restoration that this was going to be. Everything needed replacing. This was supposed to be a rubber fuel pipe, and after many years being sat around, it has literally just turned to mush. The pumps themselves were rusted and seized, and the fuel tanks were so corroded that they were actually beginning to seep fuel out of the bottom of them. The whole lot needed replacing. Even the fuel level sender units were rusty beyond repair, and in this car there are 2 tanks, 2 senders and 2 pumps. As my shopping list of parts to buy got bigger and bigger, I continued stripping down the rest of the car. After taking out all of the front and rear lights and all of the exterior chrome work, it's time to take the glass and all of the accessories out of the door. This means stripping out handles, window winders, speakers and any other wiring that are going to get in the way of the paint. The good thing about this job is once you've done the very fiddly task of taking one door apart, you've only got 3 left to do. After a few days, the car is fully stripped down and ready to head off to the body shop. There is a lot of work to be done on this car, including a full restoration, lots of repairs and extensive mods. So during the downtime, my plan is to rebuild the original engine, suspension and brakes for when the car comes back. And that's where you'll find me next time. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.